This is one of your bad takes. If nothing else, Jim Crow being analyzed through the lens of apartheid is a reasonable analysis. It's not. It shows you either know nothing about Jim Crow or you know nothing about apartheid, or you're
reject tradition in a way that there's a little bit of hatred there for women who don't want to climb the ladder and work 45 hours a week for a small paycheck and who actually aspire to marriage. They think that there's something intrinsically backwards about that. They think that there's something wrong with women who are wholesome and happy, and they instantly try to problematize that. And I'd say one of the greatest cultural examples of that today was like the feminist attack on Ballerina Farm, which just kind of came out of nowhere. It was so weird. Like, we have an example of every feminist on the cover of everything, and it's like, but no, this woman can't.
I'm sorry, I don't do any pop culture or anything. What is Ballerina Farm? Is there like a place where we grow ballerinas? Can you explain why it's not apartheid? I don't know all the details of apartheid, but like apartheid was a top-down system of racial domination from the federalized government in South Africa, where different races were doled out explicitly, different rights, relegated to live in different areas, were treated differently by the government of South Africa, like whole stop. That was apartheid. Jim Crow, I think, to some extent resulted from... does anybody say Jim Crow existed prior to the Civil Rights Act? Jim Crow was like a collection of like informal, citywide discriminatory policies that might have been written down and might not have been written down. Like apartheid was like, you're a lesser person. And Jim Crow was like, we're all equal, if you know what I mean, right? Jim Crow was much more informal, definitionally so, and oftentimes not stuff explicitly in the books or publicized because, you know, there was like this federal push against outwardly, explicitly discriminatory and segregatory policies. Jim Crow was segregation laws. No, Jim Crow, there might have been segregation that that happened in the United States that you might call part of Jim Crow, but it was like an informally done kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge type thing. Because there was such a push federally to stop like the legalized and encoded in the federal law like forms, or encoded in state laws like forms of segregation and everything.
And have 10 million followers. She's not allowed to have 10 million followers. We have to take her down. And that to me is the greatest example of what modern feminism has become, because they pretend it's about choice, but in reality, they want every woman to enter the workforce and to pretend that they're happy in the workforce from a 9-to-5 job trying to compete with men. And I think if people are being honest, the overwhelming majority of women are doing that because of financial power, not because they're really happy. And that's why they're binge drinking on the weekends. And okay.
I think there might have been some Jim Crow laws there might have actually been some laws or some statutes or whatever, but I think most of these got overturned in from the Civil Rights Act. They were declared unconstitutional. But I'm just saying there was a huge difference between and like even at the point, even prior to the Civil Rights Act, what was hold on, Plessy Ferguson was a separate but equal doctrine. I feel like I'm fighting against this argument of like a thing is racist and racist is bad, therefore all racist things are the same. Like if A then B, and then or it's like if A then C, if B then C, therefore if A then B. Oh no, wait, that would logically follow. Hold on, I need to do the formal arguments more. Wait, does that logically follow? If A then C, if B then C, and then if you were to say if A then B, does that logically follow? If means if and always, right? You'd have to do sometimes. Okay, I can't do it. We'll do formal logic after the 15 other classes we were going to do. Apartheid is bad and racist. Jim Crow was bad and racist. So people want to say Jim Crow was apartheid. But like apartheid was a specific term that was literally created to explain the exact system of racial domination and forced federalized segregation that existed in South Africa. Jim Crow was not like federal U.S. law that was enforced evenly through all the states, demanding even the same level of segregation that existed under apartheid. Like it's not the same. It's like calling every genocide a Holocaust. Like the Holocaust refers very specifically to, I think it's just the Jews. The Holocaust doesn't include like the Soviets and other people killed as well, right? But not every, but genocide's still bad. And even mass killings are bad, but not every genocide is a Holocaust. Same thing, not all forms of racism are apartheid. It's just not.
I disagree with that. I think that feminism just gives women options. And if you want to be a stay-at-home like wife and you want to be a trad wife, that's fine. Feminism is not, in my opinion, I think a lot of other people agree with me. Feminism is not the belief that you can't do those things and we're trying to convince women that they have to work. I believe that feminism is, if you want to work, go do that. Go get that bag, you know?
But it seems arbitrary that you draw the line there to call it apartheid. Like these people would probably just say what you describe as apartheid under their definition. That's not arbitrary though. They're being arbitrary. I'm being very precise. Apartheid was literally created to describe the system. That's what the system in South Africa was. I think apartheid is it an Afrikaner word or whatever? It means, what does it mean? Separateness or separated? I don't remember. Now, in international law, they defined apartheid to be things that could happen outside of South Africa. But my question to you would be, if you're going to say that apartheid, so it can't be used to describe any other system except that specific one. Okay, gay sheriff, what is the difference between apartheid and racism? Tell me. Because if you want to say that Jim Crow is apartheid, then does that mean that all forms of racism are apartheid? Is everything that's racist just apartheid now? So like the criminal justice system in the United States, is that apartheid? And why not? And then when you're thinking of a way to answer that question, every single thing you say, I'm going to say, well, isn't that like apartheid? Isn't that like apartheid? Isn't that like, then what's the difference? Right?
But if you don't and you want to be a stay-at-home wife, then there shouldn't be consequences for doing that. And I think the whole ballerina farm discussion is kind of highlighting some of the consequences. We see a woman who wanted to be a ballerina but gave up that passion and dream to be a mother. And I don't think that it's wrong to want both. I think that I think there's value in being a mother. I think there's value in having a family, right? I work with kids all the time as a swim teacher. I love kids. But at the
Ballerina Farm was this former ballerina who married an heir of some fortune and went and lived on a farm. She has a full staff helping her raise a gaggle of kids, but her Instagram post makes it seem like she's doing it all on her own and living a simple farm life. She came under extreme scrutiny when she posted a picture of herself in bed exhausted and admitted things like her husband not helping her with the kids and just treating her like a baby producing a machine. Okay, Jesus. Ballerina Farm.
At the same time, I don't want to have to choose between kids and my career path.
She didn't choose. And that's another thing is they just keep rejecting her answering this question 1,000 times. Of course.
Racism that's part of the law encoded as so is apartheid. No law in the United States separates anything by race. Okay, so if we had a law saying, so when we had school segregation, was that apartheid in the United States? Let's say that we made a law right now, or there is a law that says like, oh, black and white kids go to different schools. That's apartheid.
When you're young and before you have kids, the things that I wanted to do aspirationally has radically transformed from now that I'm married. It suddenly, everything came into focus.
Yes, that's the definition that everybody uses. If that's so, then this is fucking retarded, and we just need to play video games full time. So everything just becomes everything? You can't have any word to denote any particular thing or of any level of extremeness ever? Everything has to become every single thing? That's so fucking retarded. That's so stupid.